Ta-ra-ra, Zoom-da, have you had Zoom today? Try Zoom, you're sure to say, I love that Zoom-da. Zoom whole wheat cooks instantly, a whole wheat for your family. Tastes so good, we're sure you'll be a regular Zoom family. Ta-ra-ra, Zoom-da, have you had Zoom today? Try Zoom, you're sure to say, I love that Zoom-da. Hey!
And welcome to the Oddity Archive, the show that reeks of dirt, mold, feces, body odor, and disappointment. And speaking of great combinations, I've got a nice potpourri of vinyl records for you today. And this is going to be the vinyl equivalent of random cassettes, random reel-to-reel, etc. And of course, the overall concept, the overriding theme of all this is every now and then I find that record or tape or whatever that I'd like to cover on archive, but I know that the odds of me finding a whole episode's worth of like, or at least similar subject matter are slim to none. So, vinyl potpourri it is. Anyway, I've got 5 records from the collection picked out for today's episode, and I'm actually going to go ahead and majorly contradict myself right out of the gate with this first one. And the first one today is a children's album, because there's so few kiddie albums in the world. But I'm covering this one here because honestly, I just never want to have to make another whole episode on children's music again. The couple episodes I've done damn near killed me, and I just don't want to do that again.
Everybody cries sometimes. I know the feeling, yes I do. 'Cause sometimes I cry too.
And now you know why I don't want to have to cover more than one of these little beauties at a shot anymore. Anyway, today's first record is actually the most recent of the lot. This one is from 1974, and it's called Everybody Cries Sometimes. That cover just comes straight out of a 70s public service announcement, doesn't it? But anyway, this is kind of a deceptive record. The clip that I just played is actually the only thing on the record that really seems to follow its own title and seeming concept. Because otherwise, this is actually an even more cutesy and condescending and much lower budgeted version of that Carla Piper album that I covered back on the Random Kiddie Records episode last year. But anyway, I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that there was some sort of financial grant and or collegiate stuff involved here. And I say that because this record came with a booklet, an almost too thick booklet, and it way over-explains everything, be it the songs or the stylistic choices. And, I shouldn't complain because there really are few things in this world funnier than reading some dry, overtly academic explanation of overall black music, jazz, blues, etc., while listening to lyrics like bump-dee-da-lump, bump-bump-a-dee, everybody bump-a-deedle dance with me, as performed by the whitest people in the world.
Oh, you know you've got feet.
Oh, you know you've got feet.
Such beautiful feet.
Such beautiful feet.
You can lift them up high.
You can lift them up high.
You can take them down low.
You can take them down low.
You can jump up and down.
You can jump up and down.
You can move all around.
You can move all around. See how many ways you found your feet can go.
I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. Oh, yes, I do. I like myself. I like myself. And you want to know something? I like you too.
I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. Oh, yes, I do. I like myself. I like myself. And you want to know something? I like you too. I like you. I like you. Bump-dee-lump, bump-bump-a-dee. Everybody bump-a-deedle dance with me.
Bump-a-dee-dum-bum-bum-ba-dee. Everybody bump-a-dee-dle dance with me. Bump-a-dee-dle-bum-bum, dee-dle-dee-dle-dee-dle. Bump-a-dee-dle-bum-bum, dee-dle-dee-dle-bum-bum-ba-dee-dle-bum-bum-ba-dee-dle-bum-bum. Bump-a-dee-dle-bum-bum.
Is there room in the boat for you? Is there room in the boat for you? Is there room in the boat for you? Hallelujah. Is there room in the boat for you? Is there room in the boat for you? Is there room in the boat for you? Hallelujah. Yes, there's room in the boat for you. Yes, there's room in the boat for you.
Hey, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Well, you can play with me.
I can.
You can hold my hand. We can skip together down to the pretzel man. You can wear my mommy's shoes.
I want to.
Put on my daddy's hat.
Okay.
You can even laugh at me, but don't you push me down. Well, you can play with me,
I will.
and we can play all day.
Oh, boy.
You can use my dishes, but don't you push me down. Don't you push me, push me, push me, don't you push me down. Don't you push me, push me, push me, don't you push me down.
Today's next album seems to be designed to convince you that any elder relatives of yours, or maybe even you yourself, really need a hearing aid. And this record is called Getting Through, and this was put out in 1971 by Zenith Electronics. You could just mail away for it and they'd send it to you for free. And the main thing here is to show you, who presumably does not need a hearing aid, what the world sounds like to someone who does need a hearing aid. And the demonstrations mostly make sense. They do get a little quirky at times. But more than anything, this is just kind of tiresome. It's got a whopping 5-sentence, 10-word arsenal for you to deal with, but I'm covering it here because I can honestly say I've never heard anything quite like it. And before we start, on a quasi-technical note, compared to all the times that I have to say, find a good pair of headphones, good pair of speakers, a quiet space to listen, the demos here are so ham-fisted that don't even bother.
Welcome to a new kind of listening experience. In our first series of demonstrations on Getting Through, by the use of electronic filters and other methods, we will simulate the sound of speech as it might actually be heard by those with various types of hearing loss. By experiencing these hearing difficulties yourself, you may find new insight and greater understanding for the very real problems, the frustrations and emotional strain which the hearing handicapped undergo in day-to-day living. In our first demonstration, we will filter out some of the higher frequencies in the voice range. It will sound much as it does to someone with a moderate high-frequency hearing loss. Here we go.
Number 1, I don't want to go to the movies tonight.
Number 2, put that cookie back in the box.
Number 3, how do you spell your name?
Number 4, this suit needs to go to the cleaners.
Number 5, where have you been all this time?
Now, once more. And this time, we are removing more frequencies so that we are simulating speech as it is heard by someone with a severe hearing loss. How would you like to go through life, hearing nothing more than that? This is an unfair hearing test. The words have been carefully chosen so that they are easily confused with other words which sound much the same. You are to write them down. Here is the list. Ready?
Number 1, fill. Number 2, catch. Number 3, thumb. Number 4, heap. Number 5, wise. Number 6, wedge. Number 7, fish. Number 8, shows. Number 9, bed. Number 10, juice.
There are a number of situations where even a person with normal hearing has difficulty in understanding speech. Now we will add a high-frequency emphasis signal, which, you know by now, will simulate the wearing of a hearing aid. How do you spell your name?
Put that cookie back in the box.
How do you spell your name?
Put that cookie back in the box.
Isn't that better? We hope that Getting Through has been of some help to you in getting through to the hard of hearing in your family. Thanks for listening. Copies of this record for educational use are being made available to anyone interested in speech and hearing problems. For additional copies, write to Zenith at the address on the record jacket.
Okay, let's take a nice extended commercial break here. But instead of letting YouTube dictate the ads, let's pull them from my collection. The next two records are both just 45s, they're EPs, and they both are home to some radio ads. And the first one's got a bit of a history lesson tied to it, and it's actually what's on my box today. So back in 1956, Budweiser launched their Where There's Life, There's Bud ad campaign. And this was huge. It even spawned a low-charting version of the jingle. And the commercials, the TV commercials, started that whole casual good times thing that you see in beer ads to this day. And the print ads, I think, ran for a decade. And I'm pretty sure they used the slogan in some way, shape, or form at least into the 70s. So before I get down to the EP proper, here's a little extra context.
Open a Budweiser and pour yourself the most inviting glass of beer you've ever tasted.
Sure.
Cold, golden Budweiser with that good taste for good times. So go ahead. Live life, every golden minute of it. Enjoy Budweiser. Every golden drop of it.
Where there's life, there's Bud.
And with that, the next record is what's on my box. And this is a batch of 7 radio commercials to be aired over the course of 1957. And I think these were sent out to employees and ad people and stuff in late 56. And I also love on the cover that the lady is just so enthralled, but not with the beer, if you look where she's staring. So anyway, let's hear 50s Madison Avenue tackle Mantovani, ragtime, and beer.
Where there's life, there's Bud. At a penthouse or a bungalow, where the bright sun shines or candles glow.
Budweiser beer is for folks who know.
Where there's life,
there's Bud.
Where there's life, there's Bud. Golden Budweiser with that refreshing taste of quality. The taste and satisfaction that invites you to live life
every golden minute of it. Enjoy Budweiser, every golden drop of it.
Where there's life,
There's Bud,
Budweiser.
the king of beers. Hey, you like that happy sound? That's a good time sound. Well, don't stop now. That's Budweiser. Yes, indeed, golden Budweiser with that good taste for good times. So live life, every golden minute of it. Enjoy Budweiser, every golden drop of it. Where there's life, there's Bud. Budweiser, the king of beers. Some records, a quiet evening, and by your elbow, cold, golden Budweiser, refreshing companion to those moments of pleasure. For where there's life, there's Bud. So live life, every golden minute of it. Enjoy Budweiser, every golden drop of it. Where there's life, there's Bud. The king of beers.
Our other commercial EP seemed a bit cryptic when I found it a few years ago in this big disorganized box of 45s. It was in terrible condition, and it had no explicit title and no sleeve, and if there ever was any paperwork tied to this, it's long lost. But here it is. It's titled Ta Ra Ra Zoom Da, and it was pressed up by the Latham label of Seattle, Washington, which I can find zero information on, and there just isn't much to go on this thing. Now, the A-side of this 45 consists of a few instrumental renditions of the late 19th century music hall tune Ta Ra Ra Boom Da, as opposed to Zoom. And they sound like they belong on the soundtrack to some cheap 50s exploitation film. On the B-side, we've got the proper ads, and as it turned out, these ads were for this cream of wheat knockoff called Zoom, which I'd never heard of. But I went looking online, and as it turns out, Zoom instant cereal is still being made. I found some on Amazon. But otherwise, here's all I know. I think this is from the very early 60s, and this is home to some pretty serious marimba or maybe xylophone work. It's kind of hard to tell amongst all the crackle.
Zoom, 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 zoom.
Zoom, the instant cooking whole wheat cereal.
Ta-ra-ra, Zoom, DA. Have you had Zoom today? Try Zoom, you're sure to say, I love that Zoom, DA. Zoom whole wheat cooks instantly, a whole wheat for your family. Tastes so good, we're sure you'll be a regular Zoom family. Ta-ra-ra, Zoom, DA. Have you had Zoom today? Try Zoom, you're sure to say, I love that Zoom, DA. Hey!
Have Zoom for breakfast and be a morning millionaire. Mom and Dad, Jimmy and Jane feel like a million after a good Zoom breakfast. It's so good. Oatmeal eaters, dry cereal eaters all love Zoom. Buy instant cooking Zoom in the bright blue package. Zoom! Whole wheat for the whole family.
Ta-ra-ra, Zoom, DA. Have you had Zoom today? By Zoom, you're sure to say, I'll eat it every day. Hey! Zoom, 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 zoom.
Zoom, the instant cooking whole wheat cereal.
Ta-ra-ra, Zoom, DA. Have you had Zoom today? Try Zoom, you're sure to say, I love that Zoom, DA.
Morning, Jimmy.
You're late, Mr. Milkman, and my dad was sore.
Well, why?
'Cause you need milk with Zoom, and my dad says you need a hot whole wheat cereal in the morning.
Well, Zoom's the best.
And it gives you a lift that lasts till noon, my dad says.
Zoom is whole wheat, nature's high protein, high power start for a better day. Look for it in the bright blue package.
Ta-ra-ra, Zoom, DA. Have you had Zoom today? By Zoom, you're sure to say, I'll eat it every day. Hey!
For whatever reasons I will probably never be privy to, it seems like a good chunk of my audience really likes it when I play elevator music on this show. So today's last record is for you. Little history lesson here. Back in the early 50s, the Seeburg Company, which normally made jukeboxes, for whatever god unknown reason, decided to go into competition with Muzak. Maybe you've heard of him. And in 59, they introduced effectively their own format. They were still vinyl records, but they were 9 inches and ran at 16 2/3 RPM, and they had these big holes in the center, far bigger than a standard 45. And somehow this overall system managed to catch on to some degree and somehow managed to hang on until 1986. Now, I have not acquired any of those Seeburg records, and even if I had, I couldn't play it without like a Seeburg 1000. And the last one I saw on Fleabay I think was $1,200, and I don't even think it worked. But during Seeburg's heyday in the late 60s and early 70s, in their efforts at trying to drum up more business, they put out a precious few promo LPs, standard 33 1/3 records of their music, and I happen to have one of those. So from 1971, it's Now Sounds Volume 2, and this is kind of the definitive cute in small doses sort of LP. This is murder to try and sit through all 40 minutes, and I probably would have hung myself if I had to work in some office or something that played this stuff all day long. But anyway, we've got 15 cuts on this record, only 4 of which were then contemporary pop rock tunes, and the rest were kind of the worst of the 40s and 50s, with a few 60s show tune stinkers thrown in as well. Real classics like It's So Nice to Have a Man Around the House, and Music Maestro Please, and Baby Dream Your Dream, which is nowhere near as swinging as the title would imply, especially in this rendition. So, dear Lord, might I someday see what it is that my audience sees in this stuff. I'm playing it too!
Where there's life, there's Bud.